What happens if your partner says, I need more time to decide whether you're the one? Let's talk about it today. Let's hit it. Alright everyone, welcome to the channel. It is a pleasure to have you here with me as always. Please do take a moment before we get started to like this video, share it with your friends as well as your congregation. Subscribe to us via the social media accounts below, and be sure to hit that bell so you get notifications every time that we post new original content. So the topic of today's episode comes from a question that I got just the other day from a friend of mine who's in one of the small groups that I attend on a weekly basis. Now this can happen whether you are in a heterosexual or a same-sex relationship, and it can also be in a situation where, you know, you're a guy who is dating, let's say, a girl, or you're a girl who is dating a guy. It doesn't matter what kind of a relationship you're in, this can happen. The person who you are dating, and you can be dating them for quite some time, even years. Now, it could be weeks or months or, 1 year, but it can also be multiple years, which was the case with a young lady who I was working with, who was in my small group, who came and asked me this question after our session. And essentially what she asked me is what she thought that I should do, that I would do if I was in her place, where her partner said to her, I'm just not sure. Now she is, pressing engagement. They've been together for so many years, and multiple times he's promised her that, the second that we get the money was always the issue, right? To be able to get married. And he always said that the reason why he was saying this was because, he wants to give her the wedding that she deserves, the ring that she deserves, etc. But now they're both doing exceptionally well because over the years they've really grown in their careers, and now he still kind of has this commitment phobia, as it were. So they finally sat down, which is exactly what they should have done, and kind of had an honest heart-to-heart talk about this. And when she basically portrayed her need and said, this is something where, we really need to make a call here. He was a little bit defensive, but the one thing that he said that she really remembered was, I need more time to decide if you're the one or not. I'm just not sure yet. God hasn't kind of put that in my heart. And this is something that can be very, very frustrating, especially because God's brought into it. So it's something where a lot of people say, well, maybe I should just give him unlimited time, or maybe I should just give her unlimited time, because of course you truly love the other person. And I fully understand that. So the purpose of today's video is that I just want to give you 5 different options that you can explore if your partner has said this to you. So let's jump right in. So option number 1 is to tell them that you've enjoyed your time together, but you're developing more feelings than you think they are. So you don't see any reason in moving forward if it's not mutual. Now, per usual, and you'll hear me say it over and over again on this channel, it is not what you say, it is genuinely how you say it. That is the most important thing. And it is also when you say it, right? This should be in a context where you're not already stressed out, you're not already arguing or anything like this, right? Simply when things are going, perfectly well, etc., and you just want to have a serious talk that's low stress, right? Because this is a serious topic, and you want to make sure that if this comes up, that you have something that you can say in response. So this is the first one. It's just calm, cool, and collected, not in a way that's saying that you don't love them, etc., and you're not placing any blame on them. What you're saying is that you are developing what you believe to be more serious feelings than they are or than they have. And so because of that, you, to be able to guard your heart, which is your prerogative, never forget that it is your prerogative to be able to guard yourself, but also your responsibility to be able to develop strong boundaries in the context of dating and relationships, right? And that's what you would be doing by using this first option. Option number 2 is to end the relationship and don't go back. Usually what ends up happening is that if you end the relationship and you're not very clear about what you're doing and you're not very disciplined, what will end up happening is that you will end up in this absolute roller coaster. Now, remember that there's such a thing, there's a difference between passionate love and companionate love. Now, passionate love lasts in the short term, right? Usually it ends up, beginning to dwindle about 6 to 8 months, and then it's kind of a precipitous decline after that. This is the kind of love that's like, you want to rip the other person's clothes off and just jump them, right? Jump them in bed. That kind of crazy, crazy passion, right, is an evolved mechanism to be able to make sure that we procreate, right? That we want to actually, have the short-term mating strategy make sense for the species to become propagated. It makes perfect sense. Now, that said, right, passionate love, when it begins that process of crashing, there may be a breakup. But let's say after a couple of weeks, your emotions haven't gone away, they're getting stronger, you start wondering about what the other person is thinking and feeling, etc. Instead of not having any contact, or maybe you end up seeing them at church, or you see them in small group, and it's just really hard for you, it may be something where you get back into that relationship, even though you know it's unhealthy, and at the very beginning, when you first get back together, it's great. It's just like it went all the way back to the top of that little parabolic distribution, right? It just went all the way back up there. But that is fake, right? That's not something that's real. That's going to dwindle again. And when you first get back into it, you may be so calmed, it's almost literally like taking a drug, such that, if you're already addicted and then I take your drug away, instead of things kind of chilling out, what's going to happen is this thing called an extinction burst, where your desire for the other person, ironically, is going to shoot up at first before beginning that decline. And just like with the drug addiction, it's not going to go straight down. No, it's going to take a while for those addictive feelings to be able to go away. And so this is one of the reasons why you have to allow your brain to literally make those neurological changes so that you can get kind of back to baseline. Okay? So if you end the relationship, it is important to not go back. When you make the decision that you're done, be done with the relationship, okay? So if you're in the situation where the person says, I need more time to decide if you're the one, that is another option that you could technically take. Option number 3 is to tell them that you're willing to continue if they feel like more time will help. Now, this is a situation where I think most people will end up choosing option 3. And the goal of this video is not for me to tell you which option to take. It's really not, because everyone's relationship is different, and it would be very presumptuous of me to suggest that I could just kind of give you some blanket statement, even though I know that it feels good sometimes when we're not sure what to do, if someone else kind of gives the guidance such that we can follow it. And the reason why we usually do that is so that if what they said doesn't work, we can project blame onto the other person. So maybe, your mother told you got to end this relationship. So you end it and then you're miserable or whatever it is. You can almost blame the misery on your mother instead of, kind of taking any accountability, any responsibility yourself. That's normal. So I want to avoid putting myself in that situation to be able to make sure that kind of as you watch this video, I'm giving you all the options without telling you which one I think is the best or the worst, okay? Because it's going to change based on the situation. Now, option number 3 again, right, is to tell them that you're willing to continue if they feel like more time will help. But this is something that at least my guidance would be, it should be something where, at least internally, you don't have to tell them, you got 6 months. That's putting a lot of pressure on the relationship and on the other person. It's also putting a lot of pressure on yourself as well, because if you just keep extending that deadline 6 months more, 6 months more, 6 months more, you can find yourself being with somebody for, 5 to 10 years in some case, where the other individual is just deeply commitment phobic, okay? So it's one of these things where if you decide to go with option number 3, out of self-respect, right, and to be able to preserve your integrity, just make sure that, internally you have some kind of a deadline. Because if this just keeps going, it is almost like, holding on to a burning coal. The only ones who's getting burned is yourselves, right? So it's something to keep in mind. Option number 4 is to stay in the relationship, but to take away any long-term relationship goodies. So for example, let's say that, usually, if the partner, calls you, you always pick the phone up, right? Or if the partner, last minute on a Friday says, hey, hon, I think that we should go and see a movie, right? And you were gonna go out with friends, but instead you're like, you know what, all week we haven't seen each other. For the sake of the relationship, we're going to do it, right? Or let's say you have very different love languages, and one of his love languages or her love languages, depending on your situation, is physical touch, right? or it's spending quality time, right? These are long-term relationship goodies, right? These are not something that you would do. You're not going to sit around until, like midnight cuddling, on the sofa watching Netflix with someone who is not expressing that they feel the same way about you that you feel about them, right? These are literally benefits of being in a long-term relationship with you. Now, again, this is a very important one, that it is the how we're doing it, right? In terms of how we're communicating this, because we can't communicate it as I'm taking these things away from you because you've been bad. That's not what it is. Again, this is all about boundary setting and expressing self-respect, right? That, I really do enjoy, spending time with you and cuddling with you and these sorts of things. But, for me, it's something that it's very important for you to understand that that's something that I do, that I desire to do with someone that I'm in a serious long-term relationship with, that is marriage-minded, that we're not only heading in that direction, but after this amount of time, in the relationship, I feel like I really only want to be engaged in those things if I'm with someone who grants me a lot of security. And in this case, I'm just telling you, out of self-respect, I'm not feeling that security right now. I may and hopefully will in the future because I love you, right? And hopefully you will start to have those feelings for me, but until that time, I don't feel comfortable, and I know that you respect me, and I so appreciate that, and I know that you'll respect my decision on that. Now, keep in mind that if you communicate boundaries to someone who does not have any boundaries or who does not respect boundaries, they're going to get upset and frustrated. But you haven't done anything wrong by expressing that boundary. If they want to get angry or upset or storm out of the room or tell you that they never want to see you again, frankly, that's a really good thing for you to know. You should not kowtow because you are being respectful towards yourself and the other person is acting like an immature child who doesn't have boundaries. All right? So taking away these long-term relationship goodies should not be seen as a punishment, but rather as something that is, deeply rewarding for your future partner. And if the person you're with is not your future partner, then that's probably a good thing to know, and you should not be sharing any of those long-term relationship benefits and goodies with that individual when your actual person or, people, because I don't believe in one soulmate, but, any of the options you have out there of people who would be phenomenal partners for you, when they will not be kind of benefiting from those things in the same way. So that is option number 4. And finally, option number 5 is to continue in the relationship without saying anything. Now, the only reason that I would say that this is a viable option is, let's say that, frankly, you haven't been in the relationship for long enough where essentially kind of professing to the other person that they're the one you want to be with them forever, etc., is something that maybe societally makes sense, right? So for example, let's say you've been dating for 1 month. All right, and that's it. And maybe it's your first relationship, right? Maybe you're watching this and you're a teen watching this. This is your first relationship. I didn't have my first very serious relationship until I was 19, right? Had gone out on dates and these sorts of things, but like a serious relationship wasn't until I was 19. And let me tell you, after a month, I was definitely able to say, in my head, I was definitely willing to say, I love you and you're the one, and these things. It was definitely, not only passionate love, but also, kind of puppy love, initially at that time. But not having had much experience in it, that's how I deeply felt, and I was convinced it was true, right? But if it's something where, if you have expressed to the other person that you do believe that they're the one, and it really is just kind of too soon, like in that example I just gave of me at 19, and the other person says, I need more time to decide if you're the one, right? Then you don't need to use something like option 3, where you say, well, I'm willing to continue if you think you need more time. That probably is going to spook them, right? Because you've been together for a month and you put a lot of pressure on them, right? But instead, in a case like that, right, then probably it's best to be able to continue without saying anything, let everything chill out, and then the relationship, hopefully, if it's, a good relationship where you're both growing and encouraging one another to be the best versions of yourselves, then that relationship is going to just continue in the right direction. And, if it continues in the right direction, they're going to end up developing the same feelings, and your feelings for them, they're not going to go away. They're actually going to get deeper and more satisfying and fulfilling. So those are the 5 options if your partner tells you that they need more time to decide whether or not you're the one. Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. As always, it is such a blessing to be able to have you here with me. I hope that you have a terrific rest of your week wherever you find yourself. As a quick reminder, please do. It helps us out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel and hit that bell so you get notifications when we post new content. In addition, please do let your friends as well as your congregation know about this video, especially anybody who you know who may be going through this very difficult circumstance right now. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me, please don't hesitate to get in touch via the website below, and I hope to hear from you. All right, everyone, signing off. God bless you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed that episode and you'd like to see more original content, then please do click on one of the links right here. I hope to see you in the next one.